So now we're moving on to the final event, which will be the reason we're pretty much all here today, our student panel. And we will be discussing the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism from a campus perspective with students who passed it on their campuses. So welcome, students. We're so excited for you to be here, and we're so excited for those who are on campus who haven't passed it yet and can draw from your history and your experience on doing the same thing on their campuses. So I will start with Eden Litvin from Pace University. And I'll name all of the panelists today. Emily Callow from Manitoba, Harrison Kerdman from UCSB, Coral's not with us today, unfortunately. Her picture was on earlier, but she won't be joining us. Oren Rosenberg from University of Minnesota, who just passed his legislation just last week. And Jackie Blyudoy, I don't want to say your last name wrong. You can correct me. I'm probably botching your last name. I'm sorry. But we will start with Eden. If you could please answer some of the questions, what obstacles you faced, how you overcame them, what you worked on building coalitions, partnerships, what practical steps did you take, writing articles, hosting webinars. I know that you probably are one of the best people to talk to us about the webinars. And what was your end result in your university?
Hey everyone, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to speak today in this amazing summit. I chose to adopt the IHRA definition after I experienced the hate and the rise of anti-Semitism on my college campus. It wasn't from the student perspective. The students weren't anti-Semitism. We don't have BDS groups at Pace University. It was from a professor, and from understanding that the administration level don't know how to deal with professors that are anti-Semitism after I filed a report. I decided to pass it. It took me after Coral passed it, I decided to pass it at my university. I worked about it for 4 or 5 months to create coalitions. It took time to create coalition in the Jewish community. I had to create a coalition with Hillel and other Jewish organizations that are on my campus. But beside that, I had to create a relationship with my student government. I had to speak to a few of the student government members, president, vice president, secretary, to be able to even present it to the student government. It took a long process to create, when we present, what was the right approach to present it. And at the same time, a group of SSI president, Coral, Achia, and Ron and I, we created the Know Your Right campaign. We thought that students need to know their rights to be able to pass the IHRA definition, like Title VI, or does it mean to have the IHRA on college campus. At the same time, most of the panelists were able to pass the IHRA on my college campus. The biggest, I think, struggle was, and I think the biggest struggle is today, after we pass it, what is the next steps? I decided that my next steps are to pass it in the administration level, not only the student government level, and it's been going on for the past semester. It's been a long process, and as we talk to the administration of the school, as we talk to the student government at the same time, to work something besides passing and saying a statement about the IHRA, but how we're applying it to our school, how we're educating our student with accepting other cultural and other people in my school, how to create a school environment more diverse and less hateful, especially with what's going on college campuses, that they passed Black Lives Matter resolution, they passed the resolution again. Asianate. So we want to pass a resolution that will be meaningful for the students. Yes, we will pass the IHRA definition, but we want to create a sensitive training. We want to do something more that the student will understand how to implement this resolution through their everyday life. So that's my experience in passing the student government. My resolution passed pretty smoothly. It wasn't like we didn't have like groups going against us. We pretty much presented it because we're a campus in New York City, and the rise of anti-Semitism in New York City is crazily. It's unbelievable how much anti-Semitism there is in New York City today. So our resolution faced that because the city is our campus. We need the IHRA definition to protect the student that is on the campus. That was pretty much our resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. That was so impressive, and we're so proud of all the work that you do for SSI on campus.
Outstanding.
All right, next up we have Emily Callow from University of Manitoba in Canada. So we get a global perspective here. Emily, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here to represent Canada and also SSI at U of M. And I'll quickly just echo what Eden said, in that I'm very honored to be on this panel and very thankful to SSI and all the other student leaders, because I do not think that we would have been able to get IHRA passed in my student union if it wasn't for the support that I had from SSI. So thank you guys for that. By way of background, in November of 2020, early November, I decided that IHRA was something I wanted to pursue at my university. I'm very fortunate to go to a university that is not outright anti-Semitic. We don't have BDS on campus. There is not SJP. Israel Apartheid Week is banned. So in that sense, I'm very fortunate. That being said, I've had anti-Semitic experiences on campus from other students. And when I decided that this was something I wanted to pursue, I spoke to a lot of U of M alumni and current students. And unfortunately, a lot of them had similar experiences with either they had experienced anti-Semitism or they had experienced it, witnessed it. So as soon as I started talking to more and more people and realized it wasn't just something that I necessarily felt was needed, but something that a lot of students felt was needed, I reached out to Ilan and SSI, and we kind of got the wheels turning with that. First and foremost, I felt it was important to try and navigate how my university works and what would be the best way to implement this and the smoothest way to implement it, because at the end of the day, the goal was to get it done and to have it pass. For my personal university, that meant going to the student union rather than administration. I'm very fortunate that I knew some of the student union executives. So what I did was reach out personally, because I felt that having that personal connection would not only allow them to be more comfortable to ask questions and really make sure that all their concerns were answered before we even started the process, but also because on a personal level, I think if they had heard my experiences, they'd be more sensitive to the fact that this was something that was needed. And after speaking to them, I discovered that I could go forward and present it as an individual. I'm also sitting on Senate at my university, so I was able to kind of use that leverage as a student senator to put forward that proposal. I drafted the proposal, the piece of legislation, and was scheduled to speak at the student union board meeting on December 10th. I guess unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, CFS was also booked to speak at that meeting, so they went before me and then I went afterwards. Because I knew they were speaking before that December 10th board meeting, I also made sure to reach out to a lot of individual board members, because again, I felt that if they had a face to it, and especially because the board meetings in Manitoba at least are all taking place on Zoom, I didn't want it to just be like a little black box on Zoom telling them that this was necessary, but that they had a personal connection to me and knew why I felt it was necessary. And not only myself, but also non-Jewish students who I approached before even writing the proposal. About why it was necessary. So the proposal was brought forward by myself as an individual and co-signed by SSI and Hillel at my university. On December 10th, it honestly went very smoothly. We had a really productive conversation. All of my concerns and statistics and stories that were brought forward were received really well, and it actually passed unanimously on December 10th. So on December 10th, I felt very successful. And truthfully, I kind of thought that that was the worst of it. That being said, at my university, at least, it was after it got approved that we started to see some backlash and some struggles. Over the past couple of months, our faculty association, so the union that represents our faculty, they put forward a motion to condemn IHRA not only at our university, but at all institutions everywhere. And they did so behind the scenes, not talking to any Jewish faculty members or Jewish students before doing so. And the motion was brought forward by their anti-racism campaign, which was very ironic. Immediately when they announced that they were doing that, we also had concerns from our student union. I was approached by our executive team saying that they felt that maybe they should back down, that they should kind of take it back to the table, redraw it, whatever. And that was extremely concerning to me, obviously, because one, it had already been approved, and two, if anything, that motion, in my opinion at least, was more of a reason why it was necessary. Because if our faculty is saying that they have a right to be anti-Semitic, then we have an obligation to protect our Jewish students on campus. So as soon as that happened, what I did again was reach out to a lot of different students individually. I found, at least from my university, that was the most effective way. I also wrote a letter to the entire faculty at my university explaining why I felt it was necessary. Their major concern was that they felt it was a contradiction to their freedom of academic expression and that they were going to be muzzled, so to speak. I think a really strong criticism or response to that criticism is just that, if anything, IHRA allows for more discourse and dialogue to take place because all parties can enter that conversation, not being fearful of being discriminated against or being insulted. And that means that more productive dialogue can happen and hopefully more discussion. So that letter was really useful. And from there, fortunately, that motion also got turned down. So as of right now, IHRA is still strong in my university. And again, I'm really thankful for all the help I've had from SSI. If any of you who are listening are interested in adopting IHRA, please reach out to me or SSI. I know that we're all stronger together, and I wouldn't be able to do this by myself. So thank you.
Wow.
Very well put, like professionally put, very well. Thank you so much, Emily, and we're really proud of all of the work that you do, and you know, we couldn't do it without you. So we're really proud of you, and we're really thankful for everything that you do on your campus. Next up, we have Harrison Kerdman from UC Santa Barbara. Harrison, how are ya?
I'm doing all right. Thank you so much for having me. So the journey of IHRA at UCSB started about a year ago, actually almost exactly a year ago, when a candidate for student government at a traditionally pro-BDS party, he said that BDS, the fact that BDS has not passed at UCSB, I'm sorry. Let me start over. Okay, so sorry, my roommates were being a little distracting. So the path of IHRA at UCSB started about a year ago. This started when a candidate at a political party in student government that's traditionally pro-BDS posted something on his social media. He said that the fact that BDS has not passed at UCSB thus far is really indicative of who controls UCSB. For context, BDS has been brought up, I believe, 13 times now at UCSB, denied every single time due to the amazing efforts of our students. So based on this, we really looked for options. How do we punish this person for saying something that would not be out of place in the protocols of the Elders of Zion? We looked, there were no options. So we turned to SSI. What do we do? And SSI gave us the recommendation, adopt the IHRA definition. We started looking into it. This is amazing. This is really something that would give us the tool to fight anti-Semitism on campus. How do we implement the IHRA definition? At this point, a few other universities such as Pace, Arizona, etc., had implemented their IHRA definitions. So they gave us a template. We were able to really work with that, and we actually incorporated several of the student government officials so that we could have them on board and really feel like they were part of the process and they would be comfortable voting for it. It was going very smoothly right up until we took it to a Hillel meeting. Hillel, at least at UCSB, has this group called the Israel Leaders Meeting, where they have groups such as Keshet, Hillel, SSI, and as of this year, J Street. J Street in this meeting told us that they would oppose us in Senate. So unfortunately, we had to come to an agreement with them. No one was happy with it. which is how you know it was a very balanced agreement. We severed the, as Eliza Lewin called it, black box definition from the examples. And from this point, we were able to take it to Senate. It was passed unanimously. And now we are looking at our options of how to add the examples after the fact. Also, throughout the process, we were posting on social media, we were educating our members, what is the IHRA definition? What is non-legally binding actually mean? Because that was the most contentious part of it. I personally wrote an article through my camera fellowship, and it was overall a very successful effort.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Harrison.
And say also hello to Yuda and Leonel for all the hard work they do with you over there.
And I also want to make note that if you have problems on campus, please reach out to Eliza and all of the partners that spoke today on our different panels and various speaking slots so that you can push those extra examples into the definition as maybe an amendment. The next speaker will be Jackie from City College of New York.
And also, if Jackie can add what is happening right now this afternoon at CUNY, if you can give us an update. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to SSI International for having me today. It is a great honor. So the idea of passing IHRA at CCNY kind of really first came about when PACE passed it and news of that came out because in a nutshell, although my school is in the CUNY system and Eden goes to PACE University, our Hillel is combined. So the news of that came out and congratulations on that. And so I was like, well, why is this not at CCNY? We're both in New York City. And so lo and behold, that effort came about in the beginning of November, late October. And I brought it to the plenary. And my message was very simple, crystal clear. I come from a family that has faced anti-Semitism through generations in the former Soviet Union. My parents and my family came here to America to escape this anti-Semitism. And yet here we are in 2021. I am in the vicinity of Manhattan. I go to school in Manhattan. And yet in recent years, anti-Semitism has been on the rise in both college campuses and on the streets in daily lives. We've seen violent attacks and forms of hard and soft anti-Semitism. And I framed it that way. I have to say that passing it on my campus was actually a very pleasant experience. It went fairly smoothly. On November 19th, we passed it on the student level, and the vice president of the Senate was absolutely amazing in helping us draft the resolution, and we really we drafted it from PACE's resolution, and we kind of built off of that because it was a great one. And I must say that I think the common trend is that you really can't do this alone. I had SSI help. I'm an Emerson Fellow myself with Stand With Us. I had my Stand With Us coordinator help, and of course, cannot forget Hillel. My assistant director, Yael Brenner, was also amazing with helping us do that. So that was a very pleasant experience. Now, this story does not end there. Similar to Emily's experience, as she previously discussed, we are here April 11th. And I must say that the timing of this international summit rings very close to my heart because as I speak here, it is currently 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, and this is now the 4.5 hour that the undergrad student government on the CUNY-wide level, so this is not just CCNY, these are all of the CUNY schools, is discussing whether they will pass IHRA, which is not looking like it is in that favor whatsoever. And instead of that resolution, the Jewish Law Student Association at the CUNY School of Law co-authored an opposing resolution with Students for Justice in Palestine, defining anti-Semitism. And in a nutshell, they are saying that the IHRA resolution is Islamophobic, and it works against many other minority groups. And it is very vague in its definition of anti-Semitism, and that has been proven to sort of close free speech and work against it, and it is working against the free speech of Palestinian students on campus. And so obviously what we see here is that the IHRA definition is being framed in a way that is not very pleasant to our cause. And I have to say this, it is not I'll be honest, it is not looking, I'm just from, I'm in WhatsApp groups with the people that are at this 4.5-hour plenary session, and it's not looking good. And so my advice to anyone who may be in the situation right now, even if you do end up passing, there are still situations where this is one semester later, 5 months, 6 months later, and then something like this is happening. So my advice is this. Number one, as I've seen the past few weeks as this has all been going on, is that people will tell you, they will accuse you of this is harassment and you don't know what you stand for, and they will really, really make you doubt what you stand for. And you as a leader, as a student leader, whether you are in SSI or just a Zionist leader on campus, you must always trust in yourself, and no matter what anyone tells you, at the end of the day, collect yourself and say that I know what I stand for and I will continue to stand for it, and I will not back down. And I will be honest, I've had to do that myself the past few days. It has been rather difficult. And the other thing is that there are times in life when you must come to a compromise, and it is okay to do so. I will have to say that IHRA and passing IHRA on campus is not one of those instances. I've had senators come to me, well, one particular senator, I will say, vice president, come to me and say, look, I'm on your side, but I do represent a larger student body, and it's looking like I will have to compromise between these two definitions or some sort of middle ground. And I said, look, IHRA passed at CCNY in November, and I will do everything in my power to keep it that way. I am not coming to any negotiating table because there's nothing to negotiate about how I view anti-Semitism as a Jew and as a Zionist, and I stand that way. I stand that way. I will continue to stand that way, and that is the end of the discussion. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. I have chills.
That's why the best part towards the end of the conference to hear from the students is the best part.
Wow, Jackie, thank you so much. We really appreciate you giving us that update, and everyone here is rooting for you. Everyone on the call is rooting for you, and we have you, in our minds, and we're really trying to manifest positive energy towards you. So good luck, and we're here for you. The next speaker that we have is Oren Rosenberg from University of Minnesota, the founding chapter of Students Supporting Israel. Oren, how are you?
I'm doing great. I can tell you, it's surreal to, Eden, Emily, Jackie, Harrison, just being in the same, right next to you guys in order of presenting, it gives me chills. Like Sophia said, it's really, it's an honor to be presenting with you guys. It's an honor to be a part of this conference, and it gives motivation to what we're doing as a whole. And then it fills my heart with courage and with motivation to continue on in this fight. As Sophia and Ilan mentioned, I'm the president of the founding chapter, and that has some big shoes to fill, just because there's titans here now that are leading the way for so many students across the nation and the world. And but with that, there's also been such an amazing network, and having those resources and that family to lean on when times are tough or when times are good has been such an amazing thing. I was last year, University of Minnesota hosted the national BDS Students for Justice in Palestine conference, and that was something that was very troubling for the Jewish community on our campus. And we were all scrambling, trying to figure out what the next step, what our response would be, because too often, at least since 2014, when SSI passed their first resolution, proactive pro-Israel resolution, it's been tough to continue on in that. And I think that my predecessors, the past leaders, student leaders on campus in the Jewish community have found it difficult to try to take those proactive steps. And it's just so important to do so. And instead of, responding to the more difficult things. And so with the National SJP conference that happened last year, we all, came together and we're deciding what is the next thing that we're going to do. And that's when IHRA got floated around. And that was back in October of 2020. And for I don't know how many, 6-7 months, I'm 5-6 months, I don't know what the number is, but for several months we were planning, we we formed a coalition of student groups on campus between Hillel at the University of Minnesota, Chabad, AEPI, SAMI, which is another Jewish fraternity, and of course SSI. We all, all the Jewish community came together to try to, formulate the best approach in passing this definition and having it recognized on our campus. And to my knowledge, we were actually the first university to go about it in the form of a campus-wide referendum, which I think was really cool because, the all campus elections were a week long, and it was terrifying while it was happening. We thought, there's no way that this is going to turn out well. There's no way, especially Jackie, in response to your remarks, there's no way this is going to happen. Things are not looking good. But then, after that week passed, throughout that week, we published, I wrote my own op-ed, and the coalition published another one. We did so much grassroots campaigning and messaging, and just every single day. I remember I had midterms the same week, but I for hours and hours every day, me and all my friends, we were putting our nose to the grindstone, trying to get, put our 110% of our effort to pass this. And when it did, the fact that 60% of the entire student body voted in support of passing this IHRA definition on campus was such a reassuring and powerful statement that our campus was able to show, especially in juxtaposition to the events in previous years where we've had a BDS referendum pass, and we've had the National Students for Justice in Palestine conference at our campus. But I really do think that this is something that will help jumpstart us into the future, and continue the fight in support of all Jews on campus and in support of Israel. And that's really that's why we're all here. So I'd like to thank everyone that spoke before me, and just everyone that's attending, and everyone that's not even here and that is giving their support to all of us students and to that SSI network as a whole.
Thank you so much, Oren. We're so proud of all the work you do and all of the panelists on right now. Thank you guys so much. You're the reason we exist. You're the reason that we do what we do, and we're here to help you along the way with everything that you need.
Sometimes there is much to be said, but after those amazing students spoke, like nothing else needs to be added. I think they described everything. I could feel them speaking through the screen, and I'm proud of you all. So keep it up and make sure that you continue to inspiring many others.